Everyone, how's it going? Part 2 of the slime collab, as I like to call it. So today, I'm going to be looking at Diablo, who's going to be the next unit, well, the final unit in this collab. So he looks pretty interesting, I think. Mostly a dark physical DPS unit, but we'll have a look at him in a second. And I guess today's mostly just going to be focusing Diablo and the Ark, and honestly, not too much else, but I will probably talk a bit more about Veldora and how I've heard other people test him and how he has been performing. I don't think he's terrible of a unit, but we'll talk about him a bit later, I guess, and probably just my conclusion of this collab as a whole probably at the end as well. But first, let's have a look at Diablo, who's going to be the new unit today. He looks quite interesting. I definitely have heard a few people being more excited for this unit and hoping that he is going to be a strong unit. From what I've seen so far, he seems pretty good, but I don't think he's anything game changing. But I've heard so far he's decent, so I'm hoping from my testing and everything that he's going to be better, but I don't know. If he's got good damage modifiers, then I believe he should be able to be a good damage dealer, I think, but let's have a look. So, Diablo and the Disintegration Arc sounds pretty cool. So, he is mostly a dark physical DPS unit, and he's going to be focused on dual wield, so that's nice, and obviously it makes sense. We all expected him to be using a claw, and he is using a claw, so makes sense. One thing that I don't really understand, well, I don't know anything about the anime or anything, but he's a creature type, which is a bit weird to me because most of the other characters have been dragon types. I believe Rimuru was a creature type, but Diablo has wings, so I would have thought that he would have been a dragon, but I guess it doesn't really matter too much, because dragon or creature, they're kind of useful in PvP because most units won't have that Slayer, so that's pretty nice. So his stats are pretty interesting, kind of a weird one with how his stats work, for sure. So HP is not going to be very high, MP, don't really need that. Strength is not his highest stat. Even though he is a physical DPS, his strength not being his highest stat doesn't matter too much because he does have high intelligence, which is going to be important for him because he does have Thaumaturgy Ring Plus in his kit. So intelligence is going to be probably his main stat that you want to increase for his damage, I think. Defense isn't bad, honestly, and mind is higher than his strength as well, which is interesting, but he does have Serenity, which increases his physical damage based on his mind, which we've seen on Prefect of God Mia. And as you know, Prefect of God Mia is a great unit. She does quite high damage, so potentially, since Diablo has scaling with intelligence, strength, and mind, he could potentially do some pretty high damage, but that's just me hoping. And it should be, like, I would expect him to hit pretty hard because there's no way he doesn't, right? Adjuvant resistance is pretty basic, like, there's nothing bad about this. Plus 20 to dark because he's a dark unit, and minus 10 to light, that's fine. That's fine, can't really say anything else about that. Element resistance is pretty good too. He's not weak to anything, so that's great. And he has nil to curse, which is really useful for physical DPS. And some stun resistance does help too, so I think these stats are looking pretty good, honestly, to me. So now we can get into the skills. So his skills aren't super interesting because they're mostly just basic physical damage skills, but from the video and what I've seen from his skills so far, they do look pretty fast, so I think his skills could be pretty solid. His skill 1 is just a frontal medium area dark combo attack. It is 7 hits, which I think is okay for a skill 1. 7 hits on the high end, I think. It's not the highest, but I'm okay with 7 hits. At least it's not 6. I think 6 is kind of a bit low. 7 even though it's only one more hit, he's going to be dual wield, so the more hits the better. Skill 2 is a charge, frontal medium area dark combo attack from the rear. A bit weird, but I think it would have some lunge to it. They're not all super close range, I think. So it will have a little bit of a range to it, but you still got to be in line of sight to use the skills. Skill 2 is going to be 13 hits, so we'll dual wield being 26. Not too bad. Not the highest either, but it's okay. And then a skill 3, definitely going to be his main skill for sure. It's another levitate attack, which we've seen on a few units recently. And it's just a normal wide area dark combo attack around the target, which isn't anything special, but good thing about this skill. 19 hits pretty high for a skill 3 in my opinion, so I think his skill 3 could be really good. I think it can. His DPS for his skill 3, I think, at least what I've seen, is probably going to be his highest DPS skill, and definitely focus on his skill 3 for sure. His special, I don't think his special damage and damage caps aren't anything crazy, because his special hit count is quite low. It's only 40 hits, so I don't think his special is really going to do very much. But it does have some unique things to it. Powerful dark combo attack to all enemies, and it gives enemies a cut dark resistance debuff, which is good. And it uses enemy mind to determine damage, which is an interesting one. So one thing you need to remember is his physical skills act like normal. They target the enemy's defense, but his special targets the enemy mind. So it's not a big deal really, because the special targeting mind doesn't really matter too much to me. I mean, it can potentially help you hitting harder damage on your special against certain bosses, but that's kind of all I can think of. Like, yes, you could potentially use this as like, let's say there's a boss that can only take magic damage. Technically, you would be able to use Diablo's special, and it should be able to do decent damage because it's targeting the enemy mind instead of defense. So if they've got high defense, then you can still use his special and it's going to target their mind instead, and it should be able to do decent damage. So could be okay, but I don't think his special is the focus of this unit, honestly. It does have a few things aimed towards a special, but I never really care about specials too much. I think mostly his skills look pretty good, honestly. So traits gets more interesting, always. So trait 1, I do like his trait 1, honestly, got to say that first of all. At battle start and every 10 seconds after, chance to give all enemies the fear debuff. So it is a debuff. It's another unique debuff, which we like seeing that. And I definitely think this is going to be a great debuff to have. One thing that is a little bit concerning is that it is a chance to give the debuff, but at least what I've seen so far, he seems more reliable than Veldora, because Veldora's Magicule buffs are kind of very unreliable, but I think Diablo's done in a way that is reliable enough. At least that's what I've seen so far. So cut enemy physical and special damage by 20% to 60%, and it's going to be random every time. So it's going to re-give the buff every 10 seconds, and it's going to be a random number between 20 and 60, which is good, because even if you roll 20, minus 20 physical damage from all enemies, as long as it happens, you know, as long as it applies to all the enemies, then this sounds really good. Because units like Jian, she has a unique debuff as well, which is kind of similar. Just debuffing everyone's physical damage. Very useful, especially in PvP content, because physical DPS units are quite they do a lot of damage in the PvP content, so any debuff that can reduce their physical damage, very useful. If unit mind is higher than the enemies, then it always gives the debuff, so you may want to give him more mind and give him a lot of mind stats. That's definitely going to help his debuff against the enemies, so as long as he has higher minds, he's going to have the debuff active all the time, which sounds really good. So against healers and stuff, it doesn't really matter. Like, if I'm thinking about it, the debuff isn't really going to apply to high mind enemies, but who are those enemies? Well, those enemies are usually healers. Those usually have high mind stats, but them dealing less physical damage doesn't matter because they're healers, they're not going to deal damage. And mages potentially as well, but they don't do physical damage either, so it doesn't matter. So in most cases, this will apply and it will be very useful, but certain units like Prefect of God Mia, who may potentially have higher mind, that may be a little bit of a problem, and also Diablo does have less light resistance, so I think Prefect of God Mia is probably going to be the counter to Diablo, at least that's what I am gathering from this so far, because she's also going to have high mind as well. If lower, then cut chance to give the debuff based on how much lower. I don't know what the chance is, but hopefully it's not terrible. But as long as you have a high mind stat, should be fine, and even if you don't, then you have a chance to debuff the enemy every 10 seconds anyway, so should be fine. One thing I don't know yet is I don't know how long the debuff lasts, if it's like a 40-second debuff or if it's just a 10-second debuff that refreshes every 10 seconds. That may be the case. That would make sense. So that's a pretty good trait. First of all, like most of this, basically all of this first trait is just to do with the debuff. But there is also an extra thing here, which is when using a skill, chance to give targeted enemy a mind minus 50% debuff. This sounds really good to me. Sounds amazing because there isn't really any way to get a minus 50% mind debuff in the game. The only way is obviously from Theopolis, and that only lasts 15 seconds, so the ability to use your skills and inflict a mind debuff, and a big one at that, being minus 30%, that is pretty huge and can buff your team's damage decently, but it does depend on your team, because obviously if you're using physical DPS units, this won't really affect them. But you've got to think of how important mind is as a stat, because mind does affect healing as well, so mind making the enemy do less healing is quite useful, honestly, so that could be great. But also one thing that I can think of is it can enable your team's magic damage against a single enemy, so I think that'll be nice. And also units like Nael, maybe Diablo would do very well with Nael, potentially, because she targets the enemy's mind for her physical skills, so could be a good synergy, and I can see some good synergy with that debuff, so I think this debuff could definitely have some potential in the future, or even right now, we do have some teams or other units available that can benefit from this, so I think this could be pretty good. So honestly, I do think his trait 1 is pretty good for a trait, because you've got a unique debuff, which we always like seeing those, and also a chance to give a mind debuff, which is minus 50% mind, which is pretty high, so this sounds good for a trait 1 so far, so I think his trait 1 could be very good. And one thing to think about is this means he isn't just a physical DPS unit, he has more in his kit to help with being a support unit, so I like seeing those things. Not just a unit that does damage, he does more than that, it brings more things to your team, so I think that's good, and does give more value to the unit as well. Trait 2, I think his trait 2 is mostly to do with more damage, which makes sense. You usually get one trait which is more supportive some of the time with some kind of debuff, and then trait 2 in this case is going to be more focused on damage. So for each weapon equipped, skill and special damage 30% and damage cap 8000. Definitely going to want dual wield on him for sure. I don't see any scenario where you would want to use single wield, I don't think so. Isn't really any point at all. So have 2 weapons, you get 16,000 damage cap, very nice. When hitting an absolute weakness with dark, skill damage cap 15,000, so just from that alone you're getting a lot of damage cap. You're getting 16,000 damage cap as long as you have 2 weapons, and then you're getting another 15,000 damage cap, so that's quite a lot just from that trait alone. It's pretty good. But I'm pretty sure that does mean hitting the enemy's weakness is going to be very important for his DPS potential. I think he isn't really going to work well with Trishula because he kind of needs to hit the enemy weakness. If he doesn't hit the enemy weakness, I don't know if his DPS can compare to the other top DPS units. I don't think so. You're probably better off using someone else instead if that's the case, but I think this will make him very good against dark, weak enemies, or enemies that you can make them weak to dark. And that's just what I'm thinking so far. When getting a mind down debuff from an active skill, nullify the debuff and get a mind plus 20% buff, excluding some debuffs. So this would obviously exclude debuffs like Theopolis. It would basically only apply to like the debuffs from active skills. So let's say your support unit uses a mind debuff that costs MP. Those are the types of debuffs that he's going to nullify instantly and then get a buff from it, so that's good. One thing to note is he doesn't have a continuous Matisse buff on him, so he doesn't have any way to get a continuous mind buff, but this is kind of the alternative to that. It gives him a mind buff and nullifies enemy debuffs for minds, but he doesn't have continuous mind buff, so something to think about. Fast Matisse may be pretty useful on him, I think. It depends on what content you're going in, honestly. And he also gets continuous Shadow Wall 2 effect to the unit, so only him, not the whole team. That should reduce light damage, which actually pretty good. That's useful because he does have minus light resistance there, so that will help him survive. I don't know how tanky he can be, but I don't think he's going to be very tanky. But considering he's a creature type, and he does have the debuff and continuous Shadow Wall 2, he could potentially tank a little bit better than typical DPS units, I think. But that's just me thinking about it. Like, human units in arena are probably going to die quite easily as long as they're not a tank. But him being a creature type, most players using units in their arena teams aren't going to be focusing on Creature Slayer at all, so there's a high chance he won't be hit from the Slayer skills, which is going to be great. So I think his traits so far look very good to me. You've got his trait 1, which is focused on the unique debuff, which is great. I do like unique buffs, they're always great. And also the chance to give a mind debuff is very useful, so I like his trait 1 the most. Trait 2 is mostly focused on damage, but it does have some utility here as well with nullifying mind debuffs, as well as having a continuous Shadow Wall 2 effect, so sounds good to me. Definitely make sure to hit the enemy's absolute weakness with Dark as well, that's going to be very important. I'm pretty sure you won't be able to just shove him in any team and use Trishula. He's not going to be that type of unit. You have to think of where you want to use him in, and that's probably definitely going to be content that is specifically Dark weak. So, unless you use him as a support, just for the debuffs, and not worry about his damage, that could be an option. So, let's have a look at his skills next. Interesting skills. Actually pretty good. It makes me think that he can be a good support unit just because he's got these 4 debuffs at the top here. So Giga High Drain, love to see that. All enemies defense minus 35%, it's great. And Giga High Nemesis, honestly, you're not really going to need to use this as long as you're spamming skills on Diablo, because him having a chance to give the enemy a minus 50% mind debuff is going to be way better, but this will allow him to debuff all of the enemies, so this can be useful. Giga Weak is just very useful to have on most units, so this can help. Giga Shade, honestly, I mean, this isn't bad. I don't think Giga Shade is on a learnable arc just yet, I don't think so. Giga Shade could potentially be useful in guild battles, but I don't know, I'm just thinking, because reducing their HP recovery is quite useful. Because this is basically just Spirit Riot, but against all enemies, so honestly, these 4 debuffs pretty solid. I do like that he has this, and this does make him, you can just make him a debuff unit, which I do like, and those types of units we don't get much of, and I personally like those, and they do have more value than a typical DPS unit, so sounds good to me. He has magic up max, but just remember he's not a mage. If you use him as a mage, you're very dumb, or you just want to do it for memes, that's it. He's not a mage, just remember. He's got Slayers, so that's a big indication of doing more skill damage. Magic defense up max, great. Hesitaker up 2 and 3 gives more intelligence, mind, and MP, very nice. Critical up 2 and 3 and Proud Force, I like this. He's basically got all you need for crit. Divinity Slayer is very nice. God, Dragon, Spirit, Undead, very useful. God and Dragon Slayer in particular, going to be quite helpful, mostly God Slayer. I like that the most, but Dragon Slayer could potentially help against any, I don't know, Dragon type units that you may find. Veldora, that's kind of it, you know. God Slayer's the main one there. Auto Gran Aura is going to be a very good intelligence buff, so I like that. Auto Haste is just nice to have. So he doesn't have Auto Critical, and he doesn't have Auto Matisse or Brave or anything like that, but he does have the important ones, I guess, which is Auto Gran Aura, which is quite important for him. Sorcery Awaken, guess that helps. You can put on Awaken on him if you really want to have 2 stacks of Awaken. I wonder when they're going to be releasing Sorcery Awaken 2. There has to be a thing coming up soon. Like, I don't think there's a thing yet, but we have Awaken 1 and 2. Sorcery Awaken 2 is definitely going to be a thing soon. I can think of that. Like, imagine having Sorcery Awaken 1 and 2, and Awaken 1 and 2. That would be just stupid. That would be very dumb. Dark High Drive and Mega Drive, very nice. More damage and damage cap for that. And attack raise and critical raise. Very weird. He has attack raise and critical raise, but he doesn't have attack raise 3 or 4 or anything like that, so interesting. Dark weak point breakthrough 2 definitely enforces the fact that you want to hit the enemy's dark weakness, so there you go. And a physical weak point boost, also very important. You know, now I think about it, he would synergize quite nicely with, obviously, Dark Resistance's debuffs. So, Shift Eliza has her anima that reduces, now it's not her, it's Lagraine has an anima that reduces Dark Resistance, so Lagraine could potentially be useful with Diablo, pretty sure, because Lagraine is Thunder and Dark anima, -20, so this could be nice, because he's got this, which gives him more damage, so it could be a nice synergy to try and build a full Dark team or something, and reducing the enemy's Dark Resistance by a lot, allowing him to do a lot more damage, maybe, could be a good idea. Pose of Glory, just very useful. Thaumaturgy Ring Plus, so this one's a very good one, and a very big one, that's quite important. And the thing about this, greatly boosts physical damage based on intelligence. This is like an improved version of Thaumaturgy Ring, and also you can put on Thaumaturgy Ring as well, so that's probably what I would recommend if you have Theophilus, which you should have, as long as you've been playing for a while. That should be your first URR choice, honestly. So a lot of people should have Thaumaturgy Ring available, as long as you've been playing for a while. Thaumaturgy Ring on him, I think, should be a nice damage increase, so Thaumaturgy Ring Plus and Thaumaturgy Ring should be very strong. It sounds very strong to me. And we've also got Serenity, which we don't see often. We've only seen it on a few units. I think Shift Bayland and Prefect of Godmaya are the only 2 units that have this. At least that's who I can remember so far. Boost physical damage based on mind. and when physically attacking, enemy defense minus 15% and deal damage. Very good, because it's just boosting his physical damage more, and gives him some piercing all the time, so I really like this skill. It's very good, and will allow you to give him more mind, which will give him more damage, and also give him a high chance to inflict his fear debuff, so sounds like a very good synergy so far. And this is why I believe he should have high damage. There's no way he doesn't, because having Thaumaturgy Ring Plus and Serenity is just a very good synergy. And Prefect of God Mia has that, and she does a lot of damage, so I'm hoping he does too. And he's dual wield as well. He's got dual wield right there, so there is some high damage potential that I'm seeing, and I'm hoping that he does do some quite good damage in PvP, but I just don't know yet. And one thing I'm worried about is his close range, so he may just die easily and not be able to do enough damage to be worth it, you know? But just gonna have to see and wait for testing, honestly. Diablos is another great one to have. Skill attacks have a chance to greatly reduce defense / absolute resistances and deal damage. This is basically equivalent to piercing, but can also affect absolute resistance, which is a nice thing if you are not hitting the enemy's dark resistance. Well, enemy's dark weakness. And what this allows you to do is put on piercing as well as this. And since he's dual wield, he should have a lot of piercing, for sure. Because you've got Serenity, which is guaranteed piercing. And then you've got this, which is a chance to half defense. And then you can also put on piercing, which is the same thing, chance to half defense. So he could have a lot of piercing for sure. And there are arcs available for dark units. There's the dark arc from Devil May Cry Collab is very good for dark physical DPS units, because that has a chance to reduce enemies' defense and break guard, so that's very good for this unit, especially dual wield. Claw boost and Giga boost. So, good thing about Claw boost, this one, it gives physical damage and critical damage. So claw boosts in general are just pretty good for damage, because they give physical damage as well as critical damage. So in total it's given more damage than like a sword high boost, for instance, or probably equivalent to a sword giga boost would be 30% physical damage, but a claw giga boost gives 40% technically, because you get 20% and then critical damage 20%, so it can be very good. You can also put on Claw High Boost, which I think would be a very good option if you want him to hit more damage in PvP, so Claw High Boost definitely going to be a good option. And also, because he's got a lot of crit, I think you're probably going to want a lot of crit rate, so auto critical may be something you might want to consider putting on him, even though it's expensive. Quick trigger, just nice to have, I think, and decoy. Pretty much decoy on every PvP unit ever. And then we get to the more unique skills down here, which are nice. So this one, boost special damage based on mind. Yeah, this skill is mostly just focused on his special, which honestly I don't care about too much. When special attacking, if enemy has the fear debuff, then your special is going to do 100% more damage and get 30,000 more damage cap, and has a chance to insta kill as well, which is nice. So this could potentially be useful against, you know, a lot of high HP normal wave enemies, like in the maze. This could be very good, because if you're up against enemies that are not bosses, then you can just instantly use your special, which has a chance to insta kill, and it is against all enemies, so that can be some utility right there. So that could be good. I like the sound of that, honestly, but again, his special is only 40 hits, so this isn't really going to help too much. This one's an interesting one too. When only one ally other than the unit has a creature type, then he will get strength, defense, intelligence, and mind 20%. So basically all this means is you want to have at least one unit in your team, well, only one other unit in your team to have creature mimicry on, and that only costs 2 SC. So you're basically using 2 SE for like your healer or support unit or something. Like you can just put on creature mimicry on Renner, for instance, and then Diablo will get 20% more strength, defense, intelligence, and mind, which sounds very good. I like the sound of that. So that's something you should think about when building a team focused on Diablo. At least have one other creature type, but it doesn't need to be a creature unit. You can just put on creature mimicry and it's completely fine. So purification, I think, sounds pretty good to me. When getting a basic stats element, chance to cure it automatically, that sounds good. Sounds very good, honestly. I don't know what the chance is. If it's like somewhat decent, like maybe, I don't know, 50% would be too high. What would it be that would be somewhat reasonable? Maybe 25%, 20%, something around there is my guess, but I'm gonna have to wait on that to really see the numbers on that. But still, having a chance to automatically cure an ailment just from doing nothing is just very useful. Mind Crush is the last one. I do think this one's good. When skill attacking an enemy with the fear debuff, chance for damage 60% and damage cap 25,000. So this is kind of similar to Veldora, but it's not a requirement in a way, because yes, it's a random chance, which sucks, and I believe it's like 10% per hit or something, so it's not bad, and randomly getting 60% more damage in PvP is going to be pretty solid and going to be pretty useful, so I like the sound of that. And considering you've got dual wield on him and you're doing a lot of hits, this should be happening a lot of the time, a lot more often than a single build unit would. So I don't think this is that bad, and I think his damage cap outside of the fear debuff is still going to be solid enough that this isn't a requirement. Like with Veldora, he needed to kind of use the magic cure buffs to get a solid damage cap, you know, but he could never consistently remove them. And Diablo is in a similar way, that he can't do this consistently and not reliable enough, but it's not his main damage and damage cap, you know, it's kind of just a random bonus. Think of it like the equivalent of critical attacks randomly getting more damage and damage cap is kind of equivalent to those type of skills in the past that we've had on certain units. So it's kind of like that, where you're just randomly going to get more damage and damage cap. I think as long as you're hitting the enemy's dark weakness, his damage cap is going to be just fine, and this will just be a random boost occasionally, so that's just what I would think with this skill. So I don't think this is that bad. I think it's good, honestly. And then his 6th enhanced skills aren't anything crazy. He's got some damage cap, which isn't really too much, just 3,000 more damage cap, and then special damage cap and less physical damage taken could help, and then some debuff duration. I guess that's nice. So looking at his kit so far, looks pretty solid, and yes, most of it is aimed towards damage, but what I'm also seeing is that he does have some debuffs in his kit, which is good, because any type of unit that has supportive skills, like I always say, is going to be more valuable than a typical damage unit. So yeah, does sound pretty good to me, and he does have some potential. I think the main important ones that I want to mention are definitely his trait 1, giving everyone a fear debuff sounds very good to me, and also the mind debuff. I think those two things are going to be very, very good. And also his debuffs here can be potentially useful. So I think he's going to be a pretty decent support unit, and he should be able to do decent damage as well, so he does seem like he's going to be pretty good, and I do have some high hopes for him, but I haven't tested him yet. I'm hoping his PvP damage is high enough to be usable and competitive enough to be able to kill some units, hopefully. If that's the case, then I think he should be pretty good. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking right now. A lot focused on damage, but the rest that he does have are debuffs, which are good. So yeah, I think, at least from looking at his kit, I think he's definitely going to be a good unit. He's not going to be bad whatsoever. There's no way he's going to be bad. Like there can't be any chance he's going to be bad at all. He definitely looks like he's better than Veldora, because Veldora, I still don't have him. I just don't really like him. Well, I don't really like his kit. Him as a unit is fine. I like him as a unit. He's cool, but his kit was just not great. But Diablo's kit does seem a lot better to me because he has debuffs, and the unique fear debuff could be very useful, and his damage should be pretty good. So he sounds like a good unit. Maybe worth pulling for, but I'll probably talk about that later. Well, let's talk about the arc first. So this arc I'm not too excited on because it's mostly focused on special damage. If you like special damage, then you're probably going to like this arc quite a bit. So, arc trait, Battlestar add 15% of mind to strength. Interesting. Most cases that's not going to be that useful, honestly. Give skills, special encounters, and anti-creature and undead type effect. This could situationally be useful, honestly, because having a Slayer on an arc trait pretty useful because it can save a lot of SC on your units and allow you to build more damage or whatever you want. Basically gives you more spare SC to work with. But creature and undead isn't really that useful in PvP at all because no units are those types. Well, at least no tanks are those types at all, so it doesn't really matter. But against bosses, yes, I could see that being useful. And then the rest of this trait mostly focus on special. Special damage 45%, honestly not great, because we have other arcs that have higher damage modifiers than that. We've got Eldravana that's like 120% special damage, so 45% in comparison is just very low. Special damage cap to boss monsters plus 4,500 is okay, but again, we have other options that are better. So this trait, if I were to get this arc, I probably wouldn't really use it, honestly, because it's very situational. The buff giving 15% of mind to strength isn't really something that I see myself using most of the time. And having a anti-creature and undead slayer effect, yes, it can be useful, but where would I use it? You know, like, most cases I won't use it, because there aren't really that many bosses that are undead or creature. Obviously there's a few, but you could just put on that on your unit anyways. But it depends on what build you're going for, I guess. And then the special damage and damage cap to boss monsters, it's okay, you know, but again, we have better options. Like Eldravana is definitely a better option for special damage, for sure, and damage cap, so I just think this trait, not something I see myself ever using, honestly. The learnable skills, they're okay. I don't think they're that bad. The most notable ones here are going to be the ones down here, the last three, I think. So, Vengeful Desires. If an ally is incapacitated, then strength plus 20%. Yes, this can be useful. Sometimes. And where I can see this being useful is maybe in Arena, potentially. Because if you're up against a boss, you don't really want anyone to die anyways, because you're probably going to have a support that's going to heal everyone. And revive as well. So, 20% strength, I guess, can be good, especially if you're stacking a bunch of strength skills and a lot of stats, then it can add up and be pretty useful. But would I use it for 4 SC? I don't know, maybe, but I don't see myself really using it, honestly. But if you want more strength, you could use it, but I probably wouldn't. Like, again, yes, you could use it in Arena. If I was trying to use it in Arena, the problem is you can't really use it on anyone on your defense team, because if they have high strength, they're probably the main physical damage unit anyway, the damage dealer, and the enemy's team is just going to target that unit and they're going to die anyways. So, actually, it could be useful on 2P, you know, funnily enough. You could do that, put this on 2P, you know, it's not a bad idea. Now I'm thinking about it, could be pretty nice. 20% more strength for her actually does help her counter a little bit, so you could do that. Creature Saber, We've seen a few other Saber skills in the past, I think. We've seen at least one other Saber skill, but again, they're not really anything special. Physical and special attack damage 10% and damage cap 1000. It's not really very much, and it's to a specific type of enemy, which is creature, and it's 6SC, so I don't really see myself ever using this, honestly. I would only ever use this if I was going up against a creature-specific boss, and that's pretty much it. It can be useful against creature bosses on dual wield units, but that's basically the only scenario, and most cases there aren't really any creature bosses, so this skill won't get used very much. And then the last one is decent, I think. When using an attack special, uses 20% of max MP to boost the special damage by 20% and damage cap by 5000. This will be a very good skill, honestly. This will probably be the best skill from this arc. Giving a 5000 damage cap and 20% special damage for 6FC is pretty good, especially on units that have double hit counts or high hit counts on their special. They're going to benefit a lot from this skill. So this skill will be very good if you care about hitting hard on your specials, but honestly, I haven't bothered, or I haven't seen a need for hitting hard specials for quite a long time now, so I personally don't see this skill being incredibly useful because I don't really use special DPS units very much, because there aren't really any content that I need them for right now. So yes, this can be useful like Alice, and maybe some other special units, but that's about it. Yes, in the future it can be useful for some special units. You could even use it on like Nael for her special, sure. But that probably won't work because Nael uses MP anyway, so I don't think that's going to work at all. Other units, yeah, probably Alice mostly. And Appeal, there aren't really that many units, but yeah. The learnable skills on this arc aren't terrible, but they aren't anything that I'm excited about because I don't see myself using them very much. Like, this one, I'm probably not really going to use. This one, same thing, I'm probably not going to use. This one, probably only going to go on 2p. And yeah, there isn't much value for me personally, but I can see the value there for some other people that may use these. Archive reward accessory, damage taken from brutes minus 10%, which is beast, fish, plant, insect, bird, and creature. Interesting. And when auto guarding, damage taken minus 10%. You know, it's okay, but I probably won't use this in most cases unless I was hitting. If I was up against a brute type boss, then I may use this. Because there are a few like bird bosses and stuff, so this can be useful against those specifically. And there's probably a few creature bosses and stuff too, but apart from that, isn't really anything crazy, so I think this arc is okay, but in my opinion, the part 1 arc is better than this one. At least that's what I think. I am not going to be pulling for this arc. If you're going to be pulling on this banner, I think you're probably going to be pulling for Diablo, honestly, because he seems pretty good. And worth probably doing a few pulls on, but again, you've got to be careful with your crystals, because there's a Christmas event unit coming up soon, probably next week, or actually it's probably in 2 weeks from now, I think. Maybe. I don't know. I think this week, maybe next Thursday. We'll see. Yeah. But yeah, Christmas unit coming up soon, so you may want to save for that, because there's another limited unit. Always limited, every time limited. And always more collabs too. So, I think this banner's decent because Diablo's pretty good, and the arc isn't bad, so they're not bad. It's just, they're not anything you need at all. The arc, if you were to get it, yes, it would be nice to have, but I don't see much value in it, for me personally. The unit, I think, is definitely going to be the most value in this banner. If you do get Diablo, then that's great, because he is the best thing in this banner, so that's what I think on this part 2 banner. Now, which banner would I recommend pulling on? Well, honestly, this collab hasn't been too exciting for me. I definitely preferred the Nia collab, because Nia had 2 very good units. 2P was a meta game-changing unit, so that banner was just insane. And Shift 9S is very underrated because he is a very good unit. People just kind of hated on him for no reason. I think he's a good unit. I do use him a few times, so I think he's good. And those two units probably arguably better than these two, but can't say anything yet because Diablo could be potentially very good because he does have some potential here. Part 1, Veldora, honestly don't pull for Veldora, I just think skip him because he isn't really worth having. But this arc is quite a good one to have. Empty-handed is very good, That's check could potentially be useful. This one, good too, so it's a difficult choice because you're either pulling on part 1 for this arc, or you're pulling on part 2 for Diablo. So it's a weird thing where the part 1 arc is better and the part 2 unit is better. So if you get one of those two, then you're pretty lucky, but if you get the opposite and you get Veldora and the Disintegration arc, then you're going to be very sad because those are the two worst things from this collab, at least from the new things in this collab. Those are the two worst things, so that's what I think. So yeah, it's a tough choice. I think Diablo definitely needs more testing, but there's only a week left of this banner, so people are really going to have to test Diablo very soon. He has been tested a bit, but we've only got a week to do it, so there may be a bunch of people skipping Diablo because the banner's only up for a week. I don't know, maybe you get lucky from tickets. Let's go to the trading space next and have a look at his paid equipments because I think they are okay. I haven't looked at them properly though. Just quickly, the event trading space, there was a few more tickets in here, so make sure to get those free tickets. And there's prisms and stuff in here as well. If you go into the mail, the present box, there we do get 5 extra tickets and 1,000 crystals, so that's pretty good. Maybe you could get something from those tickets, that'd be great. So he's got a paid claw, which makes sense, and a paid accessory. So claw first. If Dark Attribute Claw gives strength and mind, you know, it would have been better if it gave intelligence as well, but whatever, it's fine. Dark attack damage 15% and damage cap 2000. Pretty basic, usually it's 20% though. Critical damage 15% and critical damage cap 2000. So yes, this is a very basic claw. It isn't really anything crazy, but the good thing about this is you're actually getting a solid amount of damage and damage cap from this weapon, considering he is dual wield. And if you have a lot of crit on him, then he's going to do very well with this, I think. And we also don't have many claws available, so this will definitely be the best claw on him for sure in like all content, because we don't have many claws. But there are a few other options which I will look at later on once we go over the recommended equipment for him, once we get to that part of this video. It's a solid claw, honestly. Would I get it? Maybe. It depends. Accessory, mind, all it gives, stats, and no resistances or anything, okay. The trait, physical attack damage taken minus 10%, okay. Damage taken from enemies with the fear debuff minus 20%. You know, it's okay, but like, will this even help him? Because if he can't survive anyway, then is this even going to be beneficial at all? I don't know, it depends, because I don't know how tanky he's going to be. He's probably not going to be tanky at all. This probably won't really help him too much. I think in most cases you don't really want to use this. You're probably just going to want to use 2 damage focus accessories instead, or 1 revive accessory and 1 damage accessory. I think those are probably better options than this, because if you're dying anyway, then this won't really save you. Yes, it's useful, And the damage taken from enemies with the fear debuff is all damage. That's great. And less physical damage. So yes, it's a good accessory, but it would have been even better if it was on someone that was tanky, you know? And considering Diablo is not a tanky unit, he doesn't have much value from this, honestly. But I'm gonna have to see how tanky he can be, but I don't think he's tanky because he's a dual wield unit, and pretty much all dual wield units, they're not tanky at all, apart from a few, like 2P obviously. And he doesn't have much in his kit to help with tanking damage as well. I don't think he even has auto protection or anything like that, so yeah. I think personally I would rather go for this claw, because yes, he is a more focused damage dealer than anything, so if you want him to be more of a damage dealer, I would recommend this claw for sure. But if you want him to be only a support, then you could get this accessory, but again, I probably would rather go for the claw, honestly, because we don't have many claws, and just having more damage just seems more useful. So in my opinion, I would just get this claw first, and the accessory probably be your second option. That's what I think, because I don't think this accessory is really going to help too much if he dies anyway. But if he can be tanky somewhat, then this will help. But I just don't think it's going to help enough. Paid equipments aren't terrible. They aren't anything crazy though, so you don't need any of them honestly. But if I were to pick one, definitely the claw. At least that's what I would pick. Giving 30% damage, technically, because of the crit damage and the physical damage, and the damage caps do help quite a lot for dual wield units, so I think it's solid. Where do I want to go from here? Well, we talked about Diablo and his paid equipment and the Ark, so I guess we'll start summons now. I do have a few tickets because I've been saving those up. I am a bit in the middle at the moment because I do want him, but I don't want a pity. I'm kind of like, I would like to have him, but I don't want a pity because I don't think he's worth the pity, but he's a good unit to have and test, but I don't know how good of a unit yet. I have 17 tickets. If you've been active enough, you should definitely have 17 tickets to use today, just from logging in and doing the event and stuff, so hopefully we can get something from these tickets. Best case scenario, obviously, is you get Diablo from the tickets. I don't expect it at all. Tell you what, if we get Diablo from these 17 tickets, I'm not going to be using any crystals today. I'm just going to be skipping his paid equipments and the Ark. So this is definitely no red, guaranteed nothing in this one, but I'm gonna watch it anyways. Best thing, oh there's a red, I wasn't expecting that at all. Diablo, it's not gonna be, there's no chance. Yeah, obviously not, I was hoping, but man, I really want to get Diablo, honestly. Tharia, okay, be a gold please. Is a red, okay, guaranteed red is lovely, you love to see that. Please be a Diablo. I would really love to get a Diablo right now. Can't stress that enough, that I would really like to get Diablo, but I don't want to pity, so I really need the luck to pull him, like, right now. And I do not want the Ark, so we don't want to see any Ark animations or any Ark showing up. We just want to see units, and only Diablo. No dupes. Please don't be an Ark animation. It's a unit animation, okay, that's a positive note. But that doesn't mean it's the Diablo, because it's still going to be it's going to be a dupe. There's only a single one. New? It's new? Wow. That's a first for me. Okay, well, that was a very quick one. Honestly, great. Okay. Allow me to lend you my assistance. Great. Love it. Well, we're done. We didn't even need to use any crystals today, did we? No. Okay. That's a win. Very big one. Didn't think we would get him today. Well, I didn't think we would get him from tickets. I haven't gotten anything new from tickets in a very long time. that's what it feels like to me, because every single time that I use collab or event tickets, I rarely get anything, or I get dupes from a ticket, and it just sucks. But this is the best case scenario, so I love that. I was really expecting it to be like a dupe of someone I don't care about. That's great. Okay. Love it. That's great. First time getting... been a while since I got a new unit from tickets. Love that. I haven't even spent any crystals in this banner, so that's a good one. That's great. I'm gonna have a think, but I don't think I'm gonna be going for any of his paid equipments, honestly. I think what I can do now is just skip and save. I think that's the best plan for now, because his paid equipments aren't really anything that I should be pulling for, and getting paid equipments in general are quite expensive, so yeah, I'm definitely just going to be saving now. I don't care about the arc. The only thing I wanted from this part 2 gacha was just Diablo, and that's it, so I literally have no reason to pull on any of these banners anymore, so definitely going to be skipping. Diablo and the limited arc, yeah. So yeah, honestly, my luck with this collab has been pretty good. I got the 2 things I wanted, and the 2 things I didn't want, I didn't get, so that's quite surprising. Usually I would get the opposite. I don't want Veldora, we didn't get him, and I don't want this arc, and we didn't get the arc. It's pretty good. Perfect. Great. First time I don't need to use any crystals. You know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to be saving these crystals for Christmas event next week. For sure. And we'll see what happens there. Here he is, Diablo. I think he's going to be quite good. I'm going to be doing a quote-unquote free-to-play build, because I'm not using his paid equipments, but I'm using still endgame equipment and stuff. Let's put him on the team, and we will definitely start building him and trying him out very soon. Let's get right into it then. First thing first, I want to level him up by using one of these. This is the last one that I have, so in the next future stream videos that I do, we're going to have to be wasting more time because I'm going to have to use a rainbow potion. I do really like these. It's the last one I have though. This should get my account up to level 55 now. This should. I should be at level 55 now, which is good. I've been trying to farm a lot of account player XP. 610 has to be enough, right? Or very close. Very close. Okay, well, that sucks. I really thought it would level me up. I'm like 1 XP away or something stupid. The sensation of rebirth reminds me of when Master Rimuru conferred a name to me. 25 XP enough? No, I don't think so. Nah. How close am I? Come on. I really need the XP. Man. Okay. I'm not going to worry about prisms yet. So, here's the thing. We won't be able to fully test him because I need to obviously learn his skills and everything. And as you know, I don't waste everyone's time with learning his skills on the stream because I just don't think it's something that people want to see. So that's why I spend all the time off stream building the units, and then next Thursday I will probably re-review Diablo and how his performance has been. That's kind of been my the thing that I've been doing recently, is every stream I re-review the previous unit and how their performance has been over the past week or two. I think that's a good idea. A great idea. Definitely looking forward to trying him out, considering he was free for me. It's the first. Claw Giga Boost, great. Does it hurt? I bet it does. Okay, that's everything. What's his ward? More damage cap. You know, that's not bad. I think that's okay. 100 damage cap when you have a claw doesn't really matter too much, but it's something. So, that's all of his abilities. Stats. High intelligence must mean that he's a mage. Sure, yeah, why not? So, now let's go over to recommended equipment. So, he can equip a sword and a claw. And obviously accessory and clothes. Imagine not being able to equip clothes. That would be horrible. So this is going to be an interesting one because I don't have any of his paid equipment. So I don't have his paid sword, well, his paid claw, and I don't have his paid accessory. So what would I use on him? I would really like to have his paid claw, but I just don't think it's necessary. You definitely want to have at least one claw, so let's have a look at the claw options. There is one that I know is good, which is this one. I think this will be my alternative, because gives 10% more damage, and chance for physical attacks to greatly lower defense and deal damage. I think this is equivalent to like another piercing, so this claw is probably going to be pretty good to use, so I'm considering using this. I think this one may be probably the best free-to-play option, maybe. This one isn't really, unless you were to have some unit in the team that can apply poison or something. I don't think you should be using this. As you can see, we don't really have any good dark claws at all. Yeah, we don't really have any dark claws, so I'm gonna have to deal with a normal claw, which I definitely think this one's gonna be the best one. I don't think there's anything else here, is there? No. Yeah, I don't see anything else that's really worth using. Yeah, basically the only one good claw that I can see is this one. So I would definitely recommend to get this one. If you have Diablo, I definitely think it's a good idea to get this Godforged claw for sure. So if you get Diablo, focus on getting this claw from the Godforged alchemy if you don't already have it. Definitely going to be important because I don't think there is really any other good claw options for him, so this claw is definitely going to be an important one. Second weapon, there are a few options honestly. Right now he can only equip a sword, but you could equip a machine as well, which I think a machine is definitely going to be a good idea. But for now, I'm going to have to stay with a claw, well, a claw and a sword, until I can teach him machine equip. So, Sword of Lost Souls could be an option. If you care about his special, this could be good. Scarlet Blade, if you need more damage cap, you could do that, definitely. Pure Blade Muramasa, definitely one of the best swords in the game, so definitely probably use that one. This one, I don't know. Honestly, I don't think it's great. It's kind of underwhelming because 10% and 3% crit rate is just not great. Anything else? Not really. Okay, well, that sucks. I thought there would be more options. Really did. I don't see anything else. Okay, well, I guess for sword options, it's definitely going to have to be Muramasa. So, these two weapons are both Godforged weapons. So, these are both free-to-play options, but they are more endgame equipments, but they aren't that hard to get as long as you've been playing for a while and have farm materials. Quite easy. Let me quickly go over recommended machine equipments, well, weapons too, while I'm here. Who can equip a machine? You can. So, machine options. Let's just look at dark machines. There are not many. This sniper rifle is a very good option for Diablo because it gives critical damage, and when physically attacking and you're far enough away from the enemy, 15% more damage. I don't think this will apply to him because he's mostly a close range physical damage unit, so maybe this won't be the best option, but the critical damage is pretty useful, and it's a dark machine, so this, you could use this machine maybe. And there aren't really any other good dark machines. I mean, you could use this maybe if you really want to for PvE. Gives 10% more damage and 500 damage cap. You could do that, sure. If you're already capping, you could do that, but again, you could just use Scarlet Blade, which is better. Any other machine options? Well, like I said earlier, you could use Trishula, but I just don't think it's a good option, because there's a lot of damage cap on Diablo that is locked behind hitting the enemy's dark weakness, so he isn't going to be good with Trishula, honestly, because you really want to lower their dark resistance and hit their weakness. So for that reason, I wouldn't recommend Trishula on him. For other machine options, there aren't really that many, so yeah, you're kind of limited on weapons. If you have the sniper rifle, then you could use that. But all of the equipments that I'm showing are all Godforge weapons so far. So Godforge weapons, if you don't have them, you're definitely going to be limited on weapon options, which may suck. And it may want you to want to get the paid claw for him, but again, you don't need it. As long as you farm materials and get these Godforge weapons, you'll be completely fine. I think that's definitely the better option. I'm gonna stick with these two weapons for the moment. I think they're okay. I don't know if I would switch to a machine. I think maybe these two weapons are fine. Now for accessories, there are a lot of good options because he's a dark unit, so you should have a lot of options. And the main options that I'm thinking of are things like this that increase dark damage. This one will be very good. I'd recommend that one, and also this one will be very good too, for sure. Those two I would probably use, definitely. Equilibrium Sphere and the other one, World Break Globus. Those two are going to be good options, but if you don't have those, then well, you should at least have Equilibrium Sphere because it's a free-to-play arc. You should have that. But if you're a new player and you don't, then you could use damage cap accessory like this if you want more damage cap. And obviously you can go for utility like a revive accessory or anything like this. Or you could use this if you have that sniper rifle equipped. You could use this and give him more movement speed, which movement speed on Diablo would be pretty useful, I think. Revive accessory is definitely going to be useful. I think Black Diamond is going to be a good option, definitely. If I were to use a revive accessory on Diablo, I would use this one. And this one, yeah, this one's definitely going to be one of his best accessories for PvP because giving him another revive and more stats, as well as the element resistances on this accessory, is just going to be a very good accessory in general for him. So you may want to use that. Other choices aren't really that many, honestly. Yes, you could potentially use this for continuous Matisse effect if you really want to, but not everyone's going to have that. You could use this, maybe, if you've got that from the UR arc. This one. If you've got this from the Part 1 arc, then you could use it. Could be an option. So yeah, you do have quite a few options. And as well, you've got this one. This one's actually going to be pretty good for him because you should be hitting weakness in PvE content, so this one's going to be pretty good. So I think a setup like this, very free to play, but some of these equipments may be hard to get for you. The top two are Godforge weapons. So I think this build, I'm probably going to use this for the moment. And I may use a similar build like this in PvP, but I would definitely switch out one of these accessories for the revive accessory that I showed, which was the black diamond accessory. I would definitely use this on Diablo in PvP content for sure. That would be great. And it will be a similar build to this, so yeah. These equipments actually give quite high strength, which is an interesting one. Doesn't really matter too much. Let's have a look at his stats now. What are they looking like? Strength, intelligence, mind, okay. Strength is now higher than intelligence because of the equipment that I have on him. Isn't ideal. You kind of want his intelligence to be the highest. Might as well awaken him a few times while I'm here. Ugh. And then we can try him out in a second. That'll be fun. I'm interested to see what damage he's hitting. Come on, we got to get to level 55 anytime now. Maybe. No, not yet. Great. We're so close. Almost there. His HP is very low, and his defense, so I don't think he's going to be tanky at all. And he doesn't have auto protection, so that also enforces the fact that you shouldn't really get his paid accessory at all. Let's quickly switch over to Steam, which I should have been on this whole time, because we didn't even need to use any paid crystals today, which is surprising. We didn't even need to be on the emulator at all. The only reason I go on emulator is so I can access my paid crystals. Didn't even need to use those. Okay, close this. Bye. Right, so now I want to try him out by himself and do some testing with him for a little bit to see how he's performing. I really want to see his skills and his damage numbers and everything. So right now, just all of his base skills, level 100, 5th enhance, nothing crazy. These equipments right now, all just focused on damage, trying to make his physical damage as high as possible. Then let's try him out. In the normal stage we always do, he's not going to have slayers, so his damage probably going to be pretty low. My guess is between like 20,000-ish. Probably about 20,000, maybe a bit below that, my guess. On crits, definitely going to be a bit higher. Maybe. That's just what I'm thinking. But he may be a bit underwhelming when he's not hitting enemy weakness. We're going to have to see. So, let's try him out. Council of 10. Use that first. So, his base skill stocks are going to be 5, 3, and 2, which is okay, that's kind of average. 5 skill stocks of skill 1 is pretty good. 3 skill stocks of skill 2 is whatever, 2 of his skill 3 is fine. You could increase them by having purple orb and stuff if you really want to, which would be a good idea for PvE. And if you notice, all of these 3 enemies have the fear debuff on them right now, which is great. Cut physical and special damage dealt random value from a set range. The one thing that I don't like is it doesn't tell you what the value is. So I have no idea what value it shows this time. Like, what is it? Is it minus 20% or minus 60% or what number is it? It should tell you from here. Like, it shows this time like 32% or something. So let's target the, well actually the boss is going to take hardly any damage because it's got 50 dark resistance. Let's target you, and start off with a skill 1, I should be doing decent-ish damage. Okay. Better than I was expecting. Now they're all dead, but as you're going to see right now, I'm going to do no damage to the boss, basically. Yeah, basically nothing. Because he's got 50 dark resistance, so this is kind of a bad place to be right now. Skill 1 can be spammed pretty well, so I think his skill 1's pretty solid. Skill 2 goes behind the enemy, which I like. Like, teleport behind you. You can see a few numbers that are higher than other numbers because he does have Diablos skill. Diablos on Diablo. They had to do that on purpose. Skill 3 is going to be his main skill. I'm going to spam this 2 times. Look how fast that is. Very fast. You know, 23,000, because that was Diablo's skill. His skills, I am really liking. Idle, animation, whatever. Okay. It's still pretty cool though. I'm definitely going to have to try him in the unit test play quests in a moment. Let's go to a different stage quickly. I want to go up against God type enemies. He's going to have Slayer against those. And I should do a lot better. I did notice that he did manage to hit damage cap 75,000 on one of those crits, which was interesting. That was fun. Should do better this time. So they still have 50 dark resistance, which sucks. I shouldn't be here, but I have Slayer. So what's the damage like now? Yeah, still not great, but better at least. Pretty fast skill 1, I like it. He can get flinched, which will suck a lot. Getting flinch is always a pain. I do like all of his skills, I think they're pretty good. Right now, I think, yeah, 2 enemies have the fear debuff. The boss currently has the mind debuff, which is great. Let's spam his skill 3. That's pretty good. Already 114 hits and they're almost dead. That's pretty good. And these enemies have 50 dark resist. They are weak enemies, but they have 50 dark resistance. And he should be hitting dark weak enemies. So, not bad. With base skills. I mean, there isn't really a good stage to really test him properly, because both of these enemies have 50 dark resistance. I mean, what I can do is obviously use the Theopolis, but fine. I'll try that. Just gonna wait it out for a little bit, then use the Theopolis. Everyone should be at 0 dark resistance, and then we can see the damage at 0 resistance. Normal attack. Whatever. Nothing crazy. Just a basic normal attack, not really anything special. His normal attacks can trigger... Actually, the fear debuff is just automatic. I'm pretty sure his skills are the only way he can trigger the mind debuff. For sure. Now let's use Theopolis right now. When I get on the floor. There we go. So now they have 0 dark resist, which is ideal. And now I'm going to use a skill 3. I guess this will give us a chance to see the range of the skill 3 as well. I don't think it's long range, I still think it's... You've got to be in line of sight, which is going to suck, but... Okay. Not sure what numbers I'm seeing because there are too many numbers on the screen to see. That wasn't too impressive. I'm hitting Slayer, but the main thing that I'm seeing is obviously the crit damage numbers. 17, 27, 19. Yeah, the damage numbers are kind of random. I am not too impressed with the damage numbers, but they weren't weak to dark. He was hitting anti-god type Slayer effect, but they were not weak to dark, so they probably needed to be weak to dark. Well, I don't know how good his damage is really going to be. Let's go back to this stage one more time. And I do definitely want to try out his special as well, real quick, and then we'll go to the unit test play quest. Just to try him out there, because it's probably going to be a bit different. It's going to be more ideal for him, I think. So if I use his special, all of them have the fear debuff. His special should be doing a lot more damage. Let's try it. Should be decent, right? It's okay. But it's only 40 hits. They almost died. 40 to 50,000. Not terrible. And also, you know what, I think his special can definitely be used for utility, because it gives all the enemies a dark resistance debuff, which is very useful. And having a debuff on a special does give the special more use than just a damage special, so I do like that. All of the enemies got that debuff, so that's nice. Skill 3. Okay. So the damage is very low, that's what I'm seeing right now. At least against this type of enemy. Human type enemy, and has 30 dark resistance, and I only have base skills, so he's really not going to do anything. But I did see a few higher numbers there, randomly, which I do like the idea of. What that makes me think of is, randomly, you're going to be getting a huge damage hit in PvP content, like in Arena. You're going to occasionally get a huge damage proc, which I like the sound of, because you can stack on a bunch of damage modifier skills and put on Savage Strike, and he should be able to do a lot of damage if he can get lucky with the 60% damage and 25,000 damage cap. If he gets lucky with that proc, and also a crit at the same time with Savage Strike, I think he should be doing some insane damage. And if you also get lucky with like piercing and Diablos and stuff like that, I think there is some potential there to deal some high damage. Like I'm pretty sure just there I did see a 60,000 crit, which was impressive considering he's only base skills and the enemy had dark resistance, and also I wasn't hitting Slayer, so that was pretty good. There is also a new sticker, I want to send that. I have a lot of stickers now. We're going to be going into the unit test play quest to try them out. So unit test play quests. This event and this is up for 6 days. Technically a week left, which will mean that this collab is going to last 1 more week. Honestly, this collab didn't last very long. It's only a 2-week collab. It felt very, like, I'll probably talk about that later. Let's keep focusing on Diablo for a bit more. So this is the build for the unit test play quest Diablo. It does have the same claw right here. This Godforge claw is the same as the one that I was using. So this is a very good claw to use. Obviously his paid claw would be a good option, but I don't have that. And the World Break Globus was a good accessory that I was considering using. They could have put on a better accessory instead of his paid accessory, like a damage focus accessory, but this is fine. Base skills, this equipment, let's see how he's doing. He does have this arc equipped, which is the limited arc from the banner, part 2 banner. Gives an anti-creature and undead type effect. I'm assuming the enemy's probably going to be undead or creature. Probably. Let's have a look. Yeah, undead type with 50 dark, minus 50 dark resistance. Makes sense. So, he has Slayer, and he is also he's hitting the enemy's dark weakness. So, I expect he should be hitting decent numbers here, and this is kind of a good test to see what his damage can potentially be. So, let's start off with his skill 1. 63,000 on that one. Normal hit was nice. 40, 39. So I guess on average you're probably hitting 40,000 maybe per hit. Yeah, on his skill 1. You can randomly get crits which hit higher. Yeah, like 39,000 on average per normal hit. Which is okay, I guess. Not the best. But those are kind of his lowest hits. I think focusing on crit ups is going to be quite important on him. Damage modifiers on his skill 2 definitely higher than his skill 1 obviously, by a little bit. 76,000 normal hit I saw right there. 54,000. Let's try his skill 3 next. At least what it looks like, the damage modifiers of his skill 2 is his highest, because his skill 3 isn't hitting super hard. Like it's hitting, I saw a 36,000 right there, which is comparable to the skill 1. 39. Yeah, what it feels like is a skill 3 has a similar damage modifier to a skill 1, which is a bit strange to me. But it is pretty fast, and does have decent hit count, so that probably makes up for it. His skill 2 is probably going to be the skill you're probably going to want to use in PvP, because it's a higher damage modifier skill. At least that's what I'm seeing here. 79,000 crit I saw right there. That was pretty nice. 37,000. 36, yeah. Damage modifiers over skill 3 aren't anything impressive. Skill 2 is pretty good. Let's use this special to see what this is like. This should be doing pretty good because the enemy has a mind debuff. Yeah, 75,000. That's pretty good. 75,999. Use it again. You know, the thing is, it's hitting hard, right? But the damage cap and hit count is just not enough for it to be good enough. So, I just think the only reason you would use this special is for the dark resistance debuff. And that does synergize with his kit and his skills pretty well. So that can be useful against bosses, but obviously can't really use special in PvP, so there's no use there. But against bosses and such, it could be useful. What I wish he had was like a chance to inflict a dark resistance debuff on his skill 3. Like, we haven't had something like that in a long time. We have Roy, who has a chance to inflict a fire resistance debuff on his skill 3, I believe. Or someone does. There are a couple units that can inflict a resistance debuff on their skills, or at least one of their skills, like skill 3. But there aren't that many. Okay. Yeah, now he's doing a bit more damage because the enemy has, obviously, the dark resistance debuff. Pretty nice. 77. 77, 79. Okay, so I just want to clarify something. The chance to get 60% more damage and 25,000 damage cap skill, that skill that he has is a random chance per hit. So you've got to be pretty lucky to proc that as well as a crit at the same time. That's going to require a lot of luck to get that. But if you do get that, then it should be doing some insane damage if you've got a lot of crit ups and crit damage modifier skills. I think if you can proc a crit with his... I should look at the name of this damn skill. The Mind Crush. I got halfway there. If Mind Crush can proc at the same time as a crit, and you have a lot of crit ups and damage ups and stuff, like he doesn't even have aim vitals or advanced aim vitals, so you can increase his damage on his crits by quite a lot. So if you can have a crit and Mind Crush proc at the same time, I think that damage is going to be pretty high in PvP. But obviously you've got to have some pretty good luck, or you could just use him with like Shift Medine for the 20% crit rate. That may be a good idea. But if he dies, he's going to lose the buff, so I don't know. Maybe not a good idea, but that's going to be some testing. I did see it proc a couple times, but it's... Let's go over what I saw. I saw his base damage caps was like 54,000-ish on a crit, maybe 50,000 base damage cap, and then you have a random chance to get up to like 75,000 if that Mind Crush skill can proc. So that's not bad, honestly, that's okay. And a 50,000 damage cap on a dual wield unit is kind of comparable to other DPS units that we have right now. And if you can increase his damage cap even more, then his DPS should be decent, I think. Funny thing though, is pretty much all of the high DPS units in the game are dual wield. That's something to think about. All of the highest DPS units in the game are dual wield. Pretty funny. So, anything else that I want to talk about right now? Well, I've tested Diablo quite a bit from base skills. I'm not going to build him fully yet. I'm going to be doing that over the next week. I guess I'll end it very soon. I'll quickly look over this event, but don't really need to. One thing I want to do is I do want to get his one prism from Trading Space. There we go. Then I can go and use the prism. Here, you do get free prisms for free. So if you get on any of these collab units, any of the new ones, Veldora or Diablo, then you should be able to get them to +6, which is nice. Very nice. So, I don't think there is too much else that I want to talk about, at least concerning Diablo right now. I've done everything that I can for him at base skills, and I will do my conclusion in just a moment. I only did one single pull. I'm going to be saving my crystals for now. I'm not going to be getting any of these. I'm going to be skipping those for sure. So, I think that's everything. 1,000 free crystals. Oh, that's weird. Okay, I'll get that later then. I guess you don't want me to get it now then. Rude. Very rude. Yeah, I'll have to collect that later. So, my conclusion for this collab so far, I haven't been too excited with this collab just because the event hasn't been too exciting for me. I mean, the event is okay, it's just it doesn't bring much, and it's mostly just a rerun event. It's kind of basically the same event that we've had in the past slime events, so it isn't really that different at all. It's basically just the same stages, and the training space is just the same that we always have in every event, so this isn't anything special. The rewards tab, we've had this on a lot of events too, and there isn't really anything good, anything unique about this event, honestly. Like, this is mostly just a cut and paste, copy paste event. These, like, EXP field, AP fields, soul accumulation can be useful to farm if you really need those, and I think I will do that very soon to get more XP for my units, but that's kind of the only good thing I can think about for this event. This event isn't really that good in my opinion. I did like the near event way more because it allowed me to farm souls to level up my arcs. That was very good. So this collab being 2 weeks and the event being a bit underwhelming and just a copy paste of the previous collab events from the slime collabs that we've had in the past isn't really that great. They didn't really put too much effort into the event, I think, but sometimes the event doesn't matter too much as long as you can farm it and it's good for materials, but this event isn't really bringing too much. Regarding the units in this collab, I mean, the fact that you can get 2 select tickets to easily get 2 free arcs, I think that's very good, because getting 2 rerun arcs for free, and getting the Besties arc for free, and getting the Fire arc for free, those 2 are the best ones. I think it's pretty good. I think that's the main thing from this collab, is being able to select 2 arcs for free. And those rerun units, don't really need to talk about those, they're kind of outdated at this point. The best unit out the rerun units, definitely Demon Lord Rimuru. The other 3, I would never consider using those. Now, regarding the new 2 banners, they aren't anything special, honestly. I think the Near Automata collab banners were way better because the Arc was very good, 2P was very good, and a Shift 9S was even pretty good too, so I think the value on the Near Automata collab banners were way better than this collab banners. So part 1, Veldora is a very underwhelming unit in my opinion. People have done quite a bit of testing with him and he just isn't that amazing. I mean, he can potentially be used to kill 2Ps and stuff in like PvP, but not many people have been using him for that at the moment. And his DPS isn't really that crazy, so Veldora is kind of underwhelming. The Arc is worth having, but is it worth pulling for? It's up to you. These banners only have like a week left from the time that I'm recording this, so it's up to you. I mean, empty-handed may be a limited collab skill. If it is, then this arc is going to be incredibly good in the future. Right now, it's not anything crazy, but it is pretty good. So, the part 1 banner is only really good for the arc. The part 2 banner, I think Diablo's going to be a solid unit, definitely better than Veldora for sure, but I can't say how much of a top tier unit he will be. I think his DPS can be on the higher end. I don't know how he's going to perform in PvP yet, but I do see some potential, but it may require a lot of damage focused skills, and maybe a lot of limited things, I don't know yet, but I'm going to need to try that out very soon. For arena and stuff, I need to build him fully first. The arc isn't really anything crazy. I personally don't care about this arc, so in general, overall, this collab, not too exciting. I think it's more of a filler collab to me, because it's just 2 weeks long, and these units and arcs aren't anything game-breaking. Like, the Near Automata collab was a very big collab, because 2P was such a game-breaking unit, and it is such a game-breaking unit right now. She's so crazy, and Shift 9S is great, and the Bunker arc was great, so I don't think the value on this collab is that high. I think the main value is if you missed out on the previous slime collab reruns, and if you didn't have those rerun arcs, then you can get 2 for free right now. That's kind of the main value, and that's it. So the value on this collab, not that great. I am at least happy that they did this rerun because it gives people an option and gives people an opportunity to get the rerun arcs that they may have missed or may have not been around for. And if you like Veldora or Diablo, you can get them if you really like them. And if you like slime collab in general, TenSura, then sure, you can go and get them if you really like them. But none of these things in this collab are going to be game breaking whatsoever, I think. Diablo needs more testing for me. I will definitely do a re-review, or at least talk about Diablo a bit more next Thursday, and what he has been performing like, because I should have tested him enough. By a week has passed, I should have tested him enough by then, so yeah. This collab, not too exciting for most people, I think. At least to me. Near collab was definitely better collab in my opinion. So what's coming up next? Well, be careful with your crystals, even though this is a collab. None of this stuff is a must pull. So what's coming up next Thursday is the Christmas banner, I believe. It should be a Saintly Christmas unit. Last year was Saintly Melee, which was one of my favorite units. She was great. I'm hoping that we get like another ice Christmas unit, or an ice mage, or some Christmas mage, or something like that. We're gonna have to wait and see, but that should be coming very soon. So keep an eye out for that. Next Thursday should be a Christmas unit. I think that'll be fun, and save some crystals for that just in case. And after that, I don't know what's coming. Maybe a story, and maybe a DOH unit. Not sure yet. I'm not thinking about that just yet, because Christmas is going to be, always is a big event for games and stuff, so gonna have to wait for that. So yeah, I think that's my conclusion for this collab. Honestly, not anything crazy in this collab, not too exciting, but it's still a fun one. Getting a collab is still better than not getting anything, honestly. So I'm not mad at this collab. I still think it's fun, and the units are fun. I like the look of them. They're just not anything game breaking like the Near Automata units were. So that's everything that I want to talk about. Feel like I've been talking for way too long. Isn't really anything I could say, I think. I am glad that we did manage to get Diablo. I will be spending the next week doing more testing of him, and I will talk a bit more about him next Thursday. I will slot in some time there, just kind of see his performance and everything, because I should have tried him in arena and stuff by that point. So I will see you, should be next Thursday, because this event says 6 days left, so I'm assuming once these banners are up, the next banner should be the Christmas unit, so you may want to save for that. You don't need to pull hard on these gachas, these banners, because they aren't anything game breaking. The Near Automata collab was definitely something I should have been pulling on, so I will see you next Thursday. I will be adding the timestamps today very soon, so look out for that. Only going to be like a few hours or so, depending on when I do it. It's going to be very soon, so I will see you next Thursday. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoy this collab. If you get lucky from tickets, like I did, then great. Tickets are always great. I'll see you next Thursday. Bye. Cat likes joining in too. Great.